everybody, welcome to the video. This video is about rigging double point and multi-point hoops. This is part of a series of videos that we're doing on safe rigging practice. Before you come to this video, we have two other pieces of information you should check out. One of those is on setting up a safe training space. The other of those is on how to establish a safe rigging point to rig from. This video, we're going to dive straight into looking at double point and multi-point hoops, what they are and how to rig them. This is a double point hoop. You can see the two tabs that we have here with the weld going all the way around and the tab which is encompassing the whole of the hoop in both of those cases. This one came to us from Firetoys and is rated at 600 kilos for a working load limit. Let me show you how to connect a single point hoop, because we have to spread the load between the 2 points that we're using, so we have to rig this in a way which is supporting both of these points. The way we're going to support the hoop is we're going to distribute the load evenly between the two tabs. So in the same way that I would rig a single point hoop with 2 carabiners and a sling, we now have 2 of those that we're using for the double point, and we have a device here which is called a paw, which is used to bring them together. Into the top of that paw we'll typically place another carabiner and suspend it from that point. If we were looking at how this would be rigged for height, you can see the load coming down through at the angles here. So all I'm going to do is take my hoop and I'm going to connect each one of these carabiners to each one of these points, doing up the carabiners, and then from there you can see how that's rigged. So this is one way to rig a 2-point hoop. There are other ways as well. We can use things like ropes, which can be used to actually connect to both points. This one's specially made, so you can see the rope travels through this eye and is whipped at the top so that everything is kept together in the right place. But also, what you can notice if you look closely is the steel wire rope which runs through the whole thing. So you have the security of the steel wire rope, but the comfort of the cotton ropes which are covering it. This is a multi-point hoop, which means that you have configurable points. So if you want it as a single point hoop, then you can leave the 2 points as they come with right where they are, or you can move it along to some of the other points. So let's change this from the configuration it's in at the moment, from a single point hoop to that of a double point hoop. What you're going to need is a set of Allen keys, and the Allen key just simply fits in the screw, and we take the screw out from the shackle that's sitting on top, and then we can move it across to another point, and that simply fits back in there and screws straight back in. And tightening up from there. So tighten it a little, but don't over tighten it, but make sure it's going to be fixed in the position that you want it to be used in. Once we've got these two set, we'll probably just tighten them up so that they're pointing at the right angle for when we're actually rigging. So right now we've got 2 of these in. What you can do is you can add an extra 3rd shackle for a point in the middle for a hand loop, in addition to the 2 points that you have there. So a multi-point hoop gives you quite a lot of variety in the different configurations of hoop that you can have, and is the most flexible of its type. I'm just going to connect this one up as we would connect it as a double point hoop this time. And of course bringing it to here, and then of course screwing up the carabiners. One of the additional advantages of using shackles which are attached to the hoop is it allows you to reduce the amount of metal work that you're actually using when you connect them, because you can connect your sling directly into this shackle instead of adding an additional shackle as well. So you can see the configuration that we have here. Connected to this double point hoop is the 2 carabiners and the 2 round slings. We then have 2 carabiners attaching to the paw to distribute the weight evenly outwards, and then from here another carabiner connected to the swivel, which we have sitting up here at the top. And this is one of the new Prodigy swivels from Firetoys, and above that we're just using that swivel and connecting it into another carabiner so that we can attach that to our rigging point. And the round sling at the top is just set at a height which is suitable for this demonstration. So when we're buying our equipment, we want to make sure that what we're buying is safe for the use to which we're putting it. If we're doing something like aerial hoop, then most of the rigging equipment like this, if it's rated at greater than a ton, then you're probably going to be okay. So this round sling is rated for 2 tons. They're relatively inexpensive, and the card which is on it tells you a little bit about the configurations that you can use it in. We'll probably cover some of those in a different video. This is a shackle, and this shackle has the safe working load placed on that as well, and in this case this one's rated at 2 tons as well. So both of these are more than sufficient for the uses to which we're going to place them. So when we're looking at carabiners or climbing slings, those are rated in a different way. So when we're looking at those, we'll not see a working load limit put on them, we'll see a maximum breaking strain. And those in our setup that we have here are set for 25 kilonewtons. So 25 kilonewtons, if you want a rough translation of kilonewtons to kilograms, just multiply by 100. 25 kilonewtons is effectively 2.5 metric tons. Again, more than adequate for the purposes that we're putting on it in this particular case. So the equipment we've chosen for rigging this hoop has been specifically chosen, and we've used the equipment in this configuration because it's the safest way to do so. Carabiners like these are only meant to have 2 points of force pulled against them, so we can't rig 3 points off of this because they're not designed for that in purpose. We've got other tools which we can use for that. But first of all, let's have a look at the different sorts of carabiner that we have here today. This is an aluminium carabiner, and it's a triple action carabiner in which we need to pull it down, we need to twist it, and then we can open it. So and then it springs back in and shuts every time, and you can't open it without doing that triple action. So it's a very safe one to use from that perspective, and it's aluminium, so it's very light. If we look at this, is a steel carabiner, which is a screw lock carabiner, and this screw lock carabiner, once it's screwed up, it's nice and tight. We would typically rig these closed in a downward position, so that vibrations would help it to vibrate downwards, but there have been a number of cases where the vibrations still allow that to move up. So the safest way you can use a screw lock carabiner is to lock it down closed and continually check it to make sure that it is staying closed, so it doesn't come open. This last carabiner here is another steel one, and this one is also a triple action carabiner. So I'm going to push this up, twist it, and then open it, and it springs back closed. So again, nice and safe. But even this one is only meant to have 2 points of load pulling in that direction. As you can see here, there are 3 points of load which are placed onto this paw, which is why we're using a paw in the middle. We're not going to use a carabiner for that because it's only designed to have 2 points of load on it rather than 3. However, there are other devices we could use in place of that paw. This one is a bow shackle, and as you can see, it's in a bow shape, and this does allow us to have 3 points of load. So we can have our 2 slings coming out the bottom, and we can have our rigging from above on the top. We can also do the same with this, which is known as a delta mayon, and this screws up tightly and won't come undone. But you can see the 3 points of load which can safely be placed on one of those. So we could replace that paw with one of these instead. So you can see how I've configured this with the 2 slings coming straight into the bow shackle and the other sling coming in at the top, thereby reducing the amount of metalwork that I'm placing in my configuration. It's important to make sure we got the right size of shackle to ensure that, first of all, it's the right size to take the right amount of load, and secondarily, so that we're not cramming all of these 3 things in together in a very tight space. This gives it enough room to move around in there, and it's always going to be configured that way up, with the bow at the bottom and the pin at the top. If we're using a bow shackle, the last thing we need to do before we put somebody on it is to make sure that this pin isn't going to unscrew or come out. So we'd typically do what we call mousing it, which is to add a cable tie in through the eye to make sure that it's secured and won't come undone. So I'm just going to loop this through and place the ends in together and pull it tight. That will prevent, even if it does turn, it won't actually come undone and vibrate loose. And that gives us our final position for this. So when you're doing these, try and remember not to cut these off, because it usually leaves a sharp edge, and that can cause damage to your round slings. So just leave them as they are. It's also helpful if you choose ones which are the right length for the equipment that you're using, because you can get some very long cable ties. So this is how you would install a Delta mayon into your rigging. So here we're attaching the round sling directly into the Delta mayon on each of the sides and coming from above. So you're always going to want to have it this way up. So if you like, the forces are pulling at the corners, and this is tightly screwed up, and there's lots of freedom of movement in there. So it's not too small, and it's strong enough for the load that we're taking. When we're rigging, we've chosen to use these nice big fat slings as they're very much more comfortable on the skin. Ropes are good too, but they're not the only thing that we can use to hang a hoop. We could be using climbing slings, although they're much smaller diameter. It means that they're much harder on the hands and on the body if you're using those. You can use steel wire rope or covered steel wire rope covered with plastic as another method, but again, those are not usually quite as fat and as chunky as these. So these are much more comfortable to use, so we see these being used much more commonly. Right, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. If you want to stay up to date with what we're doing, then go to www.Circusrigging.info. You can subscribe there for exclusive content. If you're seeing this on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to this video to get all of the latest video updates that we're doing as well.